at a time. Yeah, this is tea time. Yeah, making a difference. One cup at a time. Tea time. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time. Making a difference. One cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time.
Well, welcome back to Tea Time. That's right, Miss Liz is back, and it is evening tea time. And I have a returning guest from season 3 and 4, and now she's here for season 5. So I can't wait to get Diann back in here, and we're going to talk about some of her new books and all of that good stuff, and humanitarian missions, and all of the good things that we usually talk about. And if you haven't seen Diann's previous tea times, you can check those out on Miss Liz's YouTube channel, where I'm going to swing you over to right now. Ring that little doorbell, and you can watch all of these tea times at any time in your home, in your car, at an event. Spread the word. And if a tea time resonates with you, share it with your friends, family, loved ones, co-workers, all of that good stuff, because that's what Miss Liz does. She loves sharing, and sharing is caring, and caring is healing. So a little bit about Miss Liz. We're going to do a disclaimer, and then we're going to do a bio, and we're going to get Diann in here, and we're going to spill an incredible tea. Tonight's tea is time, entertaining, and awareness. So we'll be talking about those 3 words with Diann a little bit in the show. So disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz myself is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith. However, may bring forth dialogues and opinions that are not representative of my platform. And the facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the giving time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment and taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussions for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that this show is engaging in discussions, forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection, and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in tonight's show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that the show is not made for you at this time, I respect that, and we'll see you at a later show at a later date and time. And again, all Tea Time shows are hosted on a Thursday, 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you see a Tea Time on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's a special, surprise, or rescheduled Tea Time. So now a little bit about my guest. Well, she's here for the 3rd time, and she was also at the reunion show, which will be happening in December. So stay tuned for that, guys. Diann Boehm is a former classroom educator and award-winning international author. Diann writes children's books and young adult historical fiction. Diann's books inspire her readers to be kind, love themselves, and embrace imagination. You can find all of her books on Amazon, B&N, and you may order at your favorite bookstores. Diann does speaking engagements, signing, and author visitations. Her creative flair encompasses the performing arts and performing in musical theater productions in Dubai, produced by Popular Productions out of England. Diann enjoys making guest appearances on various live streaming shows and is an expert correspondent with Dr. Jacqueline on the UK News and Culture show for USA Global TV and Radio. Diann is currently serving on the school board for St. Michael's Espocado Preschool in Austin, Texas. I'll get her to say that school's name because I don't want to disrespect it. So let me get her in here, and let's share some tea tonight with all of you guys. Welcome, Diann.
It's so great to be here. So it's Episcopal, St. Michael's Episcopal School.
I swear my tongue, like I'm just like, what's that saying?
Trust me, it's a hard word.
I think it's a Spanish word, is it?
I think it's English because it comes out of the Anglican Church in England. But then after the United States, well, we weren't the United States then, but after we had our big war for independence, the ones here, the Patriots said, we're going to be called Episcopal. So who knows where it came from, but it's an Anglican church.
You know, if I tried to even try to say that one time, I think I would, and my tongue would just slip.
I have words like that too.
So Diann, for anybody who hasn't seen season 3 and 4, tell us a little bit about yourself. So who were you as a little girl, and who are you now?
Wow, I've lived a long life. That might take a long time. You know, I grew up like most Americans in a small town with the most loving parents. I was very blessed, hardworking people, and I have 5 brothers, and I'm right in the middle, the only girl, so the princess of the family. Though you wouldn't think it, because in those days, all you listeners, you know, there wasn't wash and wear clothes. You had to iron everything, including the sheets and the towels and everything. So my brothers were like, "Are you going to get my jeans dried and pressed before school?" So anyway, oh, poor Diann. No, but it was really fun growing up. And then, you know, I went off to school, but I was always on stage. I was on stage since I was 10 years old, and I absolutely love the stage. That's a form of storytelling, which really led me to everything that I do now. And even when I became, I graduated from George Mason in Virginia, and when I became a teacher, I was still always telling stories, because it was a wonderful way to bring the kids together, even if they were in 8th grade. It was like, let's calm down. I know you had a really hard test, but let me tell you about one of my tests and how I can relate, and blah, blah, blah. And before you know it, everybody was ready to work and get busy. So I'm all about trying to have people love themselves and believe they can do it, but know that you have to work together to make it happen.
Well, and storytelling does bring people together, right? Look at it, brought us together.
That's right. And the perfect name. I love the name Teatime. It automatically just calms your soul and relax. And it's very clever what you came up with.
Well, I was given it at the age of 4, so my Oma has a lot to do with that. So it was a time of reflecting, recharging, and releasing, right? And just serving life tea, right? Because life is hard, but we have some incredible people like you out there that is making it a little easier through your books and through your writing and your acting and all of that stuff, right?
Thank you. So sweet to say. I hope so. You know, I always think that, no, I really believe this, that I thank God every morning that I wake up that I got to open my eyes, because somebody else didn't get to. So if I'm blessed enough to be able to open my eyes, I ask the Lord, what can I do to make you smile today and bring happiness and joy to someone? I don't necessarily need to see it, but I hope you see it, because I want to share the light. So that's who I am.
So Diann, I have a question for you. You said you started being on stage at the age of 10. So how was that for you?
It was so exciting. I didn't know what I got myself into, but I knew I loved to perform, you know, with all my friends and everything. And so at school, the teachers decided that there was going to be a talent show. And I was in 4th grade, and I went to a Catholic school. And so my friends, they were like, let's become the singing nuns, and we'll do a pantomime. And I don't know if you know the singing nuns, but because you're very young, but they were out of France, and they sang Dominique. And so we all dressed up like little nuns, and we pantomimed it. And I just remember when we finished, the smiles and the clapping, and I was like, this brought so much joy that after that, I was like, I got to keep doing this, because it brought joy.
So have you done a lot of musicals?
Yes. You know, well, a funny story, in 5th grade, when I transferred to public school, they wouldn't let me be in the choir. I had to beg, and that's a story all by itself, which will be in a children's book one day. And then, but all through junior high and high school, I was always, you know, singing and in the choir and trying out. for awards and stuff. And then I had the most amazing high school theater teacher, Mrs. Angelo, and God bless her soul, she just passed and was buried on Saturday. But she was a powerful influence in my life. And though I had no leading part, which I didn't deserve, I was not the person that needed to have those parts. But she taught us that even if you're just walking on stage and you have no words, that you're still one of the most important people because you had a part to play. So she always made you feel important. She always loved everyone. And she taught us more than just acting. She taught us about life, the ups and downs, and how to be strong. And I loved that about theater too. So anyway, I was in all 4 musicals in high school, and then in college, I was in choir. I didn't do theater or anything, but Miss Angela taught me everything. So I was always trying out for community theater, and ended up with some parts and a local community theater in Round Rock at the time, Texas. And then when I was in the Philippines, I made it into a professional musical, Pippin, and then musicals for 14 years in Dubai. So that's pretty cool, right?
Absolutely. I think it's amazing. And see, you already have future projects on the go. You're already talking about putting it into a story one day. So let's talk about some of the children's books, and then we'll get into the young youth books that we'll be talking about tonight. But some of the children's books that you've written, Diann.
Sure. So my tagline is to embrace imagination. And so my children's books are all about the theme could be kindness, it could be peace, to believe in yourself, and embrace imagination. So for instance, A Time to Fly is about a little bird who didn't want to fly. And the mom's like, you can do it. And so there's this really sweet way that the mom gets the child or the bird, but you can see yourself in it. And before you know it, the little bird is taking off. And that is to inspire kids to know that, yeah, it might be kind of scared to take those little steps, but just do one step at a time. And before you know it, you'll fly too. And then there's Charlie and the Tire Swing, and that brings in a lot of generations because it's real big to me and important family history. I just love family history.
I think that's the book I got, Charlie and the
Yeah, I think so too.
I think so, yeah, because I'm trying to remember. I have so many books from all of my different guests, but Charlie and the Tire Swing rings a bell.
Well, good. I love Charlie. And there's going to be more stories coming out, but the long and the short of it is he's an embracing imagination on his tire swing, and you never know what he's going to be that day. And then, anyway, I could go on and on because I have like 11 books, but again, they're all wrapped up into kindness and love. And I'll tell you one more quick thing so you can have a moment to ask me questions. So we'll be making a big announcement soon, but Boomer, as you know, the Curious Bunny, did really well. So thank you everyone who's purchased Boomer. So it's turning into a series, and a big announcement will be coming out real soon about Boomer the Curious Bunny. And I'm just over the moon about it.
I remember Boomer now. I remember Charlie from, I think, season 3. And then season 4, we did Boomer.
That's right.
Now it's starting to ring a bell. I was like,
yeah.
I can't wait for good news. I always love good news, guys. I like to get it out there as well. So don't forget to give me that information.
Will do.
So tonight I want to talk about your book. It's called Ruby Takes Chicago.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So what's that book about? Because I was surprised when I got that from Mickey. I was just like, oh, this is different.
Yeah. This is the sequel to Rise, A Girl's Struggle for More. Ruby, who, she ran away. It's based on a true story, my grandmother, just to say that for you. And that book did really well too. And the purpose of that book is to go after your dreams, no matter how long it takes, but you can do it. And so that book did really well. So my publisher is like, you're going to have to do a follow-up. I told you that was going to happen. I'm like, really? Okay. So Ruby Takes Chicago is where Ruby, her parents are like, okay, this small town's not cutting it for you. You're going to have to go to a big town in Chicago. So they give her the bus fare and connect her with a family that they know there. And she she doesn't have a job or anything, but she is going to find it. So a lot of humorous things happen, and she becomes of age in that story as well. So there's a lot of heartbreak and love and heartbreak and etc. And jobs looking for him. But one funny thing that I love to say is that we've seen movies where operators go and they put those little things in, and don't know what they're doing. Well, that really does happen, because my grandma was one of them. In the early 1920s, you would just see signs outside in the window saying, job, secretary wanted or whatever. And so anyway, she gets hired and she says, oh yeah, I know how to work an operator machine. And so she's like putting everything in, and the boss is like, I thought you said you knew what you were doing. And my grandma was telling me the story, and I looked at her and I said, just give me 15 more minutes, I'll have it down.
Well, at least she tried, right?
Right. And she got to keep the job because she got it down. He was so impressed with her wanting it so badly and willing to put herself out there that he goes, okay, I'm keeping you.
So was that your grandma's name, Ruby?
Yeah, that was her name, Ruby. So
yeah. When I seen the cover of that book, I was like, oh, I like this, the vintage, the design of the book. Like, I don't know who did the design of the book, but it was really nice, really different, because I'm so used to the children's books, right? And then I seen this, and I was like, oh, well, look at this.
Yeah. That was an OC Publishing. So I have 3 publishers now. And so that my A book was with OC Publishing. And yeah, they did a fantastic job with the covers on both books, very vintage. And on both books, the pictures are actually my grandmother.
Oh.
So that's really her. That's really Ruby. And so that's how, in Ruby Takes Chicago, that's how she looked in the 1920s.
Well, she was beautiful, because I love the old look, the vintage look.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just like, well, I was blown away by that. And I've actually worked with OC Publishing as well. They've worked with me as well. Incredible, and does incredible work as well.
She does.
Yeah.
She's a hard worker.
It's a small world, right? Like,
it's world.
Amazing. So how long did that book take you to write?
Well, the first one took almost 5 years.
Oh.
Because there was so much studying in history that I wanted to make sure that I got it right. And luckily I had my mom with me because she's passed. So that's why I say it like that. And then, of course, I had my grandmother's stories, and my mother helped feed in pieces that, your grandmother wouldn't say to your young grandmother. Right? But this book only took about 2 years because I had already done so much history. So in this particular book, I really needed to study Chicago. I needed to study the voice and the way things worked back in the 1920s, and the politics, with the drying, they had speakeasies because you couldn't drink, right?
Yeah.
Prohibition. I was losing my word for a minute. Prohibition. And so I knew where my grandmother, what speakeasies she would go into and so forth, because she loved to dance. So that's another part that's really fun in that book as well, is how the women pretended to be one way, and then they would get into the speakeasies because they had to. It's the only way to survive, right?
Yeah.
And also, I think what's interesting about that time period is we see a lot of movies where it's all glitz and glamour, but that's not the reality for the whole United States.
Yeah.
A lot of people starving to death in the late 1920s, right? Because we were moving into the Depression time, and then we had that prohibition, and people think, oh, women are starting to work, but even a big town like Chicago, the women who were willing to work, like my grandmother, they were looked down upon, and they were looked at as hussies because they were wanting to step out of the house and not follow everything that a man said you had to do. So she was really ahead of her time. But also, I want young people to realize life for women was not always easy compared
Yeah.
to today. So,
Well, I got a lot of stories like from my grandma as well, because she was born in 1926,
okay.
and she passed when she was 97 last year in November. And like she said, she's seen enough, you know,
Mhm.
like they did see a lot
They
in
did.
the time, right? And it was hard for women in that. They were dressed up fancy. They had the design. They had a really good wardrobe, but they were making a lot of their outfits in that as well, with
Absolutely. Yeah.
leftover materials and curtains, and like they were making outfits out of a lot of leftovers.
Right. And during the Depression age, a lot of people, parents or moms, I should say, were making dresses for their kids out of potato sacks. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
heard that.
yeah, yeah. My
Well,
great,
because they would have images on the potato sack bags, right? They
yes,
would have
exactly.
pictures and that. So
Yeah, yeah. So that's an interesting story, even how the potato companies realized it and started making their sacks even prettier for the
yeah,
clothes to happen, which I thought was kind of nice of them.
it was right.
Yeah.
So Diane, did you get any like any outfits from your grandmother when she passed, or did
Not
she?
when, not when she passed, but I clearly remember playing with, in the cover of Ruby Takes Chicago is a picture of not Chicago, I'm sorry, Rise, a Girl Struggle for More. My grandmother is 16 with that picture, and she has a comb in her hair because it was a big deal. When you turn 16, you get to wear your hair up because you're a grown woman. And so I clearly remember playing with that beautiful comb. And now I'm like, Mom, why did grandmother ever let me touch that comb? I would love to have it today. But yeah, no, most of her clothes from the 1920s would not have fit her in 2020. She enjoyed
Wow,
it.
and we're putting so much history out there, right? Because for all the listeners, like only 16 and you could put your hair up. So before that, you weren't allowed to put your hair up.
Right. Well, actually, I'll back up a little bit. It depends. When you start your period, or a young boy turns into, quote, a man, there was no such thing. You were either a child or you were an adult. Teenagers did not happen. That word did not become a daily vocabulary word to the 1950s. But we have the people of the 1920s to thank for us moving into that generation. Dating happened for the first time when cars came about. Courting disappeared because of cars. I mean, so much took place with this particular generation. So when you turned 16, and clearly you most likely had your period, then you were considered marriage material, and you could wear your hair up. And that was a big deal.
Wow.
I know, crazy, right? And that's also when boys made the change in their bodies, they no longer, they didn't have to wear shorts anymore. They got to wear trousers. You didn't wear trousers unless it was wintertime or something, but trousers were for young men.
Wow.
Learned
Just going back in history, it brings up a lot of memories and a lot of stories, right? The storytelling of our grandparents and that.
so
Uh,
much.
so Diane, when I seen the title Ruby Takes Chicago, I thought of you. I thought that was a story about you and Broadway and musicals and that. So I was just like, wow, where did she go with this one?
Yeah, that'd be amazing. The only time I was ever in Chicago was for teacher conferences. So it is a great city. Yeah, it's really, really pretty.
I think it's a good title for a good theater, like in Chicago, like a Broadway show, like Ruby takes
There
to
is a
Chicago.
Broadway show called Chicago, right? It's
Yeah.
it's a fabulous show. So
So
Richard Gere was in in the movie musical of Chicago. I don't know if you saw it, and he actually did the tap dancing for it. So that was pretty cool. But, yeah.
yeah, because as soon as I seen the title, I was like, I wonder if that's Dianne, and she's doing a musical. Like,
That'd be cool.
so what age group is the book made for?
Excellent question. That was something that a little bit of insight. I, I'm I'm old fashioned, so I don't think young people need to be reading about kissing and all this stuff until they graduate from high school. And my publisher goes, uh, Dianne, I'm sorry, this is not the dark ages. We're going to make this for 13 and up. And I'm like, 13? Oh my goodness. Can't they just hold hands at 13? And she's like, where have you been living?
I'm old school too. Like, I'm just like, you're not dating till you're 30. And they're like, my daughter's getting married next month and she's 32. And I'm just realizing, oh my goodness, she's not a little girl anymore. She's a grown adult. So,
It's hard.
it is hard, right?
Yeah, it is. But congratulations. That's pretty cool.
Well, thank you for that. So I want to get into your tea. The tea that you gave me tonight is time, entertaining, and awareness. So let's talk about those three words.
Okay. Thank you for telling me that. I sent you those because I had all new ones. So.
Oh, well, let me have the new ones. I always love new words.
I love time. I was thinking about, at least in the United States, we're getting ready. We are in the middle of this giant political battle. And I just want peace and love. And so I thought, T for tolerance, that we need to tolerate other people's opinions. We don't need to name call. We don't need to be saying you're so stupid for thinking like that. Even if you think it, you don't need to say it because everyone's entitled to their opinion. So tolerance, right? And that works within the classroom too, to be kind to a fellow student, classmate. And E for effort, because it takes a lot of effort to have tolerance, but we need to try to have that in our daily lives. And then I thought about A for association. And I thought association because it is a reminder of who we associate with is also a reflection of who we are. And if we really want to keep the light shining inside of us, which I believe we all have, because darkness cannot survive with light. So the more that we can tolerate, the more effort we make into being kind and tolerant towards others, and to associate with people that are kind and loving and want to do good, that we're just growing the light inside of us, which helps us to grow the light in the world. So that's what I came up with.
You know what? I really like that word association because I've never had that word before given to me for an A, but I can also see that it has a lot to do with your life as well.
Me personally?
Yes, you personally, because of the way that you work with speaking and going into schools, educating, the association of gathering, right? And bringing the awareness. When you said that word, I was just like, oh, I like that word, because we don't talk about association very much. We say it, but we don't talk about it. And I think that's something that we should be bringing to the table a little bit more, right?
Thanks. I think so too. I really put a lot of thought into it because I really love tea time. I love thinking about it. I remember the first time you asked me that, I was like thinking off the top of my head, and I liked what I said, but I thought over time, I thought, I'm going to put a lot of thought into this. And that's what I came up with. But I do believe that, the more we associate with people, the more I mean, no one's perfect. I mean, goodness gracious, I've made tons of mistakes in my life, but that's how we grow, right? And, but the more we associate with people that, who steal, who bully, who do unkind things, who cuss and so forth. And you think, okay, well, I need to be like them because they're so cool. And and then you end up becoming that person. And then you discover, I don't like who I've become. And you start backing away. And then you work really hard to start bringing that light once again inside of you. And it's hard to take those little steps, but it's worth it because you start to grow. And the more, again, you start associating with people like who love to sing, and oh, I used to love to sing, I'm going to be around them, right? Then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I found my real people. I'm going to grow as a human being.
I so love that, and Diane, that you changed your tea, because I say this all the time. It's not an everyday tea. We serve different blends and flavors on how we feel, and I'm glad that you took the time, and I'm glad that you liked doing this little experiment. And because my grandma gave it to me, right? Words tell stories, and stories change lives, and interaction. It's again association. Who you associate with. Who do you want at your table? And I love having you as a guest because we always have this good conversation about tea, right? And old memories and history and stuff like that. And it goes right back to all of your words that you gave me to begin with: the time, the entertaining, the awareness. With the tea that you just gave me tonight, with tolerance and effort and association, it all goes together. Like, it just makes a beautiful story. Like, it makes a beautiful time together.
Thank you. You're absolutely right. Because entertaining is putting forth effort too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you started at the age of 10,
Yeah.
entertaining. So there was a lot of effort put in. You were a little girl, like, and the singing nuns. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it or watched it.
So you can go on YouTube and you can actually see the original singing nuns performing. And it's a hoot. I thought they were wonderful. And they raised a lot of money to help people, again, which is a guiding light, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the work you do for humanity, because you're a huge humanitarian like I am. But what have you done? What organizations have you worked with, and all of that good stuff, Diane?
So I've worked with a variety of organizations depending on where I've lived. Free the Children is actually out of Canada. Congratulations.
Oh,
Uh, and they have this fabulous organization where they help people in Kenya. And it was a real honor to go and help build a library out there with a group of people. And then in Uganda, um, the Queen Sylvia has a fantastic foundation where she helps the schools and communities, and has actually, I was really amazed. One of the first things I learned about Queen Sylvia, she's in Buganda, Uganda, is when she became queen, um, the disease was really, really heavy with AIDS. And through education, it is down to where there's only like 1% of people with AIDS.
oh,
Shocking, right? She's done
yeah.
such a fabulous job. The people love her. They love her husband, and it was a true honor to do work with her. So I did that for a couple of years because it was easy living in Dubai, because Africa's a lot cheaper to get to from Dubai than it is from the United States. But here in America, my husband and I do a lot of things, mainly through our church. When they say they need help with different things, we try to be there and help wherever we can. So, but I started helping when I was a little girl. before there was what we have brown Santa and blue Santa and all that. Before that existed, um, I mean, I grew up in a family where you always had to save a little bit of your allowance and give it for the poor, or save it so you could buy something at Christmas time. And so I remember with my friend Connie Ann, she and I went and collected old toys, and then we cleaned them all up and got them all pretty, the dollies and everything, and got them all ready so kids who didn't have anything could have something for Christmas. So it's just always been a part of me.
And what I really like, Diane, is because the message of humanity, right, is it's very simple. Help your neighbors, help somebody in need. You don't need a big title, you don't need a big label. Just go out and do the little things. It's like when you were little, saving your allowance and getting a gift for somebody else.
Mhm.
That's how we make a better world, by just sharing and caring for everybody.
Absolutely. And I've carried that through as a parent. We have a store that's called Walgreens, and Walgreens, they put all their little Christmas stuff on sale the last week of Christmas, and right before Christmas. And I give my kiddos X amount of money, and we go to Walgreens, and they can get whatever they want. I tell them that where I've found a good place to go, and spoken to the manager at like a trailer park or something, and give hints, and then we wrap it all up and deliver it with the help of the managers at different trailer parks, and and so now some of my kids are doing the same thing, delivering turkeys and delivering toys. So I think when we can teach our loved ones to start sharing and loving and caring, that we're teaching them more about life than just receiving.
I think it's a deep, important message, right? And it's being passed down from generation to generation. So they have that memory as well, right? Where'd you learn that from? Oh, I learned it from my grandma. I learned it from my mom. I learned it from my aunt, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
right. And then it brings more stories to the table. So Diane, I want to ask you, do you have a favorite memory growing up that stands out to you the most?
Oh my gosh. How can I share what so many beautiful memories? And it depends on which person. But I'll say, in honor of my mama, I will say having her come home after a hard night of working in the ER and with blood all over her. Those, they had to wear lab coats, in those days. And she'd leave the lab coat outside and all her shoes, because she'd never want to bring those germs inside. And then she still made time to read to us, and get up in the morning and have, in the wintertime especially, I was going to say, and have warm oatmeal ready for us and a smile on her face after doing a huge shift. And that just really inspired me that, you you can work hard and still put a smile on your face for your kiddos and let them know that they're loved. And that's a really good gift from a mom, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that I asked that was because, sometimes we talk about today, so much today, right? So much presence today. But it was the little things when we were growing up that we bring to the table today. And having that memory stick with you and say, you know what? I appreciate life a little bit more because of that memory.
Mm-hmm. No, you're absolutely right. And I'm hoping that I'm creating memories for my grandson. I'm in charge of making his birthday cakes every year, and it's registered with him. He's turning 4, and he was like, Grandma, that was a great Spider-Man cake you made me last year, but this year it's going to be an astronaut cake. And by the way, and then he tells me all the way up to he's 7 years old what each cake's going to be.
And that's a special memory together. Like he knows that grandma's the one that's making the cake, and then he has a story to tell behind it. Like
Yeah.
astronaut, that is cool. I always love how the little ones come out with and surprise you, right? you think and they're watching this or they're reading this, and you're thinking, okay, well, that's what they like. And then all of a sudden they come and they change the whole storyline. And they're like, that's not what I want. I want this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my granddaughter's 3 and gonna be 4 in March, and some of the things she says to me too surprises me because I think she likes this, but no, she likes this now. So
Yeah.
we're watching this new show called Ruth and Ruby, where it's a grandma and granddaughters that are doing skits and teaching you how to treat people and in school and classrooms and all that. It's pretty cool. I
Oh,
would have
okay.
never thought she would have liked it at the age of 3, but she likes it, and I kind of get a kick out of it because there's a grandma in there, and then there's 2 granddaughters, and they're doing all these little mini skits in there.
Oh, that's awesome. I'll have to look for this. It's really cool. So
Yeah.
I have to tell you one fun story. So my grandson, my husband and I were watching him, and we were like, oh, do we have to watch Spider-Man one more time? So, I love YouTube because you get anything on YouTube. So I put on Lassie, the old black and white Lassie. I don't know if you remember Lassie or
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
So he got so excited. He jumps up and he goes, that's a real person. And they look like me. We had him for a whole week. And after watching that, he'd always want more. And before I knew it, he was like, go, Lassie, go. You can do it, Lassie. He was only 2 years old.
Wow. Bringing those old stories back, is really incredible too. And they see the difference in the movies and the films and all of that. My dad used to make me watch the black and white Blondie and Dagwood, and he would wake me up in the middle of the night. I'd have school in the morning, and it was on like 3 o'clock in the morning. He would wake me up just to watch it, and then he'd say, "Okay, go back to bed. You got school in the morning." And I'd be like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, that is so funny. I'll have to look for those. So some of my brothers and I, and now my husband and I got him hooked. We're watching. We message each other. Did you watch that one? And we're watching the old shows from when we were little, and one of them is My Three Sons. Did y'all get that up there?
Oh, that sounds familiar.
It's because you're a lot younger, but it's worth seeing again on YouTube and on Prime. Actually, has picked it up because it's so popular. But it's a lovely way to see how life was too in the 1960s, and it ran for 12 years, so it goes all the way to the 70s. So you really see this change happening in time and people thinking and their thoughts and so forth. And so it's a great way to show kids how, you had to get up to turn on and change the channel. You were the remote control.
There was only 3 channels, or you put an SOS pad on the end of the rabbit ears.
That's right.
And then it was move it this way, or the big satellites that were outside, and you had to go out and and then they'd be banging on the window. Yeah, no, leave it there. Like,
yeah, that's exactly right. I'm sure nobody knows what we're talking about.
Well, my listeners are the older generation, so they're going to be like, oh, good memories.
Yeah. Good memories.
So, Diann, did you ever watch the series of Tammy's in Love?
Yes.
Because of musical, I just thought that would be something you would watch, right? The Tammy series. For all my listeners out there, you're probably saying, "Oh my goodness, where did Miss Liz get this?" Like,
I love the Tammy series and Gidget. I loved Gidget.
Oh yes,
the movies Gidget, right? So.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. You'd think having 5 brothers, I would know everything about dating and stuff. But these movies are so innocent that I loved them. And I loved the Doris Day movies. And so I got tips from Doris Day on how to date. Okay, you don't kiss a guy to the 3rd date because you wouldn't want him to think you're a hussy.
I could just see you listening to Tammy, this series of Tammy. And they were so clean back then. They would talk about relationships and stuff like that, heartbreak and that, but it was in a clean fashion.
Yes. And the thing is that our minds, we can picture things. We don't need to actually see it all.
Right? Less is more.
less is more. Amen. Very well stated.
So Diane, I want to get into you do a UK news and culture show for US Global TV and radio. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I've been with them for like 4 years. I've had 3 different shows, but I needed to move down to one so I could have some more time for writing. But the UK news and culture is fabulous. We, Dr. Jacqueline and I, she's the founder, and I are with 2 other people, Helena Shard and Simon MacDonald. Simon is from Scotland, and he fills us in on all the news of Scotland, as well as he gives us a 15-minute overview of somebody exciting in history in Scotland. And then Helena Shard, who's been taking pictures of the royals for eons, and gives us really great updates. And sometimes we get pictures of the royals before they're on the major news channels too. So that's pretty cool too. And Ian is another person who actually started with the show, and now he comes back as a guest on the show because he has, I think, over 1 billion followers on his political news show, as well as a royal show in London. And he's been taking pictures of the royals since the 70s. So I'm learning a lot from them, but it's a wonderful way to bridge the gap and show unity between the United States and America, because we both need each other. So I love it completely.
So, and when do you do that show?
We do it on Wednesdays at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, 10 o'clock Central.
So I want to get into the Story Garden because I believe that's your YouTube channel, correct?
Correct. And thank you for asking about it. It's I took a time off for a couple of years because really the loss of my mother was just really devastating. And then we had COVID, and it was just one thing after another of losing people. But I'm starting it back up, and in January, most likely. And the purpose of the Story Garden is to give authors who you may not have ever heard of, I want to give them an opportunity for free to be interviewed, to share about their book, or even read the book if they want, and help them get their name and their book out there. Because there's a lot of great stories out there, and I just want them shared. And I'm such a believer that if God's blessed you, you need to turn around and help somebody and bless them too. So that's my Story Garden. It's a safe place for kids.
I know that you were doing some work where you were reading stories for a while. Was that part of the Story Garden?
Yes, I also read stories myself, and some parents asked me to start reading things for the middle school kids too, and I started reading some books, and then I realized I have to get a permission to read some of these books. So I'm going after books now that are no longer published, but they're great books, and reintroducing a lot of fun books to kiddos in the Story Garden. So it's not just there's the young preschoolers, and then there's the middle school kids.
So, and Diann, you also go into the schools and speak, right?
Yes, that's true. Whenever I can, I'm an invited speaker to do 2 things. One, I might come in and sign books and be at their book launches or their book parties that they have. But I love coming and speaking to the teachers and inspiring them in the classroom, because teaching is one of the most important jobs on earth. And you can get so depressed as a teacher these days. I don't think I have what it takes to be in the classroom to put up with a lot of stuff that they put up with today. And I just want the best teachers to stay and be inspired to know that they're loved.
It is so true, right? Today's, I give a lot of appreciation to teachers because they do put up with a lot of different, it's not like it was 20 years ago. There's so much disrespect towards teachers.
Exactly.
And the curriculum, like for teaching classes, have all been mixed or shortened. They expect you to do more with less time, and yeah.
And
So
guys, right?
right, yeah. Though I give a big respect to teachers, because teachers do it for the heart. They don't make a lot of money, and they put up with a lot of stuff. So
A lot of stuff, right? Right.
yeah,
And but you're so on the money when it comes to respect, because when I was growing up, you never disrespected a teacher. But today, parents disrespect, so the kids think they can be disrespectful.
yeah,
But at the same time, I'll hear teachers cussing at the students, and that's not respectful either. So it goes both ways.
yeah,
Again, it goes back to what we were, what we were talking about earlier. If you start cussing and everything, because I don't believe in cussing, that you end up bringing darkness within your own classroom. So, what can you do as a teacher? Even when the kid is like the hardest person to teach in the world, you have to figure out, okay, how can I bring light into that child? That's your job as a teacher, to bring light and encouragement, because it's those hardest kids that need you the most.
yeah.
Really passionate about that.
Well, I think society has really changed the educational system, right? Like you said, like teachers are cussing and students are cussing. I think a lot of people are just tired. Society is just tired of so many changes, so many ways of doing things. When we, for centuries, we've been doing education one way, and then being told, okay, now we got to do it this way, and we start removing things, right? Um, I noticed a lot of change in the school systems when we took the Lord's Prayer out of the schools and stuff like that. So, that moment of grace, that moment of gratitude for the morning to get the classroom started, right?
No, you're
Um,
absolutely right. And I will say that living overseas and seeing schools in various countries is a real eye opener. But I will say that I've always taught in private school, so we could have that moment of coming together and building ourselves as a family within the classroom.
yeah,
But a lot of schools overseas, you come dressed to learn. That's what I always call it. You might be in uniform, but you're dressed to learn. You're clean. You're cut. You're there to learn, and they know they're there to learn. And bullying and everything might take place, but it is crushed like that because it will not be tolerated. And so there's a lot to be said about how, in America anyway, we need to look at some of these schools that are thriving overseas
yeah.
and maybe bring some of these guidelines back into our own country. A big thing that's going on right now, is to bring back the 10 Commandments. But I always say, if you just put the golden rule in your classroom, that covers everybody. It doesn't hurt anyone's feelings, because all religions have to love one another, right? And to be kind. The golden rule is powerful. And I think that if kids look up and they see the golden rule and they read it and they were having a bad thought, that almost helps to erase those bad thoughts.
Yeah.
So that's my take
Well,
on it.
well, it goes right back to the word that you gave me to describe yourself was the word kind. You just said kind. So, what
Yeah.
does kind mean to you, Diann?
Kindness, that's an excellent question. I never thought about it as far as me in general. I think it's to have a big heart, to be full of love, to be willing to listen. And a lot of times we don't listen. And I think that's one of the most important L words, is to listen before you react. Because if you really listen to the person, then you might make an effort to think differently and to be a little bit kinder.
And
And
it goes
go ahead. I'm sorry.
and it goes right back to your T, right?
Yeah,
The effort, the kindness with the effort, you
that's,
know.
that's right.
It absolutely, and that's what I mean. Like the T works with storytelling, right? And
Mhm.
it's discovering on how we tell the stories and how we write the stories and share the stories. And tonight we're sharing stories on 3 words, but tonight we're doing a double dipper. We're doing 6 words because I really feel like your two T's actually pour in together and make a stronger T, because tolerance takes time. Effort is entertaining. It can be, and entertaining is not a negative word. It's a positive word, right? Because we entertain to engage with the association to bring the awareness. You see how it all boom, boom, boom. It
Amazing.
like
Thank you. Sounds like a great Earl Grey.
right, and that's just like having a tea party. You're just pouring the tea, but it's blending all together, and that's what your words have done. They've blended together and made a really good strong cup of tea tonight. So I want to get into your favorite color because your favorite color is blue. So why blue, Diann?
I've always loved blue. I think it's calm. I love looking at the sky ever since I was a little girl. I would sit on the back porch with my little white cat Angel and look at the puffy clouds and try to think about what those clouds look like. And if the puffy clouds weren't there, then the sky was this clear blue. And I thought it was the way that led you into heaven. And so blue is just beautiful.
Well, and I could tell with your voice got really calm as you were talking about blue. And that's what I love when you read when you read children's books. I love the voice and the expressions that you put in when you read the words, right? Because your voice changes, and I love listening to you when you read the children's books because I find that I'm calm, and I'm just like, where's she going with the next page? Like you bring that engagement in there, like you bring that what's once the page is turned, who's coming next, right? Like I like that.
I love making the words jump off the page, I really do.
So Diann, do you have any new books that will be coming out this year, next year, or any upcoming events that you'd like to share?
I forgot I have this new publisher, and I'm very excited. We're going to have I can't tell you the title yet because I didn't get permission, but I'll make sure you know about it in case you want to do something with it. But it's so exciting, and I will give you a hint. It's about a camel.
Oh, Alice the camel has one hump. I'm thinking of children.
And it's not hairy. It's a new camel. So I have that coming out, and then we'll be making a big announcement about Boomer and the series, and that should be in about 1 more week. So that's very exciting. In the meantime, I've been writing like crazy, some more stories, and no telling where they will go.
So Diann, are you going to turn any of your books into a musical?
Wouldn't that be fun?
I think it would. I think Ruby Takes Chicago should be a musical.
I do too, actually.
I think I would go to Chicago just to watch it.
Oh, you're so sweet. That it really would be inspiring for a lot of young people to see, and fun too because of the 20s. The 20s are an exciting time. But anyway, yeah, that would be fun. And so I'm like writing like crazy, and I'm taking some classes actually on AI. I want to understand AI. So Perplexity and I are becoming really good friends.
Oh, wow. I would have never pictured you taking classes on AI.
Yeah. Well, I was one of the first teachers to bring technology in the classroom, so you just didn't know that. But yeah, I'm really big into wanting to know where the world's going, and I want to be cemented in the world. And anyway, my AI, do you want to know its name?
Absolutely.
So I gave my AI a name, and his name is Frank, because I want him to be frank about what he thinks about my thoughts.
Well, I like that. I like Frank. You'll have to introduce me to Frank.
I shall. And I bet you end up with your own AI and,
right?
and a new name too for your AI.
Yeah, I don't know. I may be superlicious califragilistic or something. Like really make them work hard.
So I love it.
So Diann, do you want to share your website and spell it out for all the audio listeners for me, please?
Sure, I'll be happy to. So, yes, so it's D for Diann, DiannFloydBoehm.com. DiannFloydBoehm.com. Though it looks like Bohem, it's Boehm. DiannFloydBoehm.com. Floyd is my maiden name, and I promised my daddy I would use it.
Well, I love it. And I love this tea time together. I always have fun with you. Thank you again for joining me on Tea Time. And for anybody that would like to know more on the incredible tea times that we've had together, check out the YouTube channel because she was on season 3, season 4, and season 5. So check the playlist because Miss Liz has different playlists for different seasons. Check that out. And I will see everybody back here with September's guest. That's right. We're already in September of this year. I can't believe it. But September's guest, and we will start all over again and serve new cups of teas out there and get some words and some real life stories out there. And we'll change the world one story, one tea, and one word at a time. Until then, I want to wish you guys all a beautiful weekend and take time for family and take time for tea and keep serving to make a better world.